everybody, welcome back to City Sowers. Guess what? Mr. David has been gone for the past, how many days? 5 days?
5 days.
Yeah, 5 days.
5 days. It was a long 5 days.
It was torture.
All by me onesies.
Got my mountain man hair on now. You know.
Yeah, he's got the mountain man look.
But I have some exciting news. On my deer hunting trip, I ended up shooting a buck. I'm very excited about it. We wanted to share with you the process that we're going to go through to make some deer sausage. Take what is basically a deer carcass and turn it into something you can use in your house.
Like
one of the things we've kind of talked about, one of the things for being an urban homesteader, I mean, literally we're in the middle of the city, but we still look for every opportunity to turn the environment we're given into a way to provide for our family, friends, you know, however we can do it. So hunting is one thing. It's a tradition in my family. Every single year, as a child, young child, I watched my dad go up to the mountains with his dad. And then when I was old enough, I finally got to go up to the mountains with my dad. And then actually last year, for the first time, Nathan got to go up to the mountains with me. But in my adult life, I have not shot a deer in California. I've gone out of state, shot a nice buck in Montana, but someone else went through the butchering process. And so this is the first time I'm going to be butchering my own deer. Now I've helped with others cuts and others kills, but I wanted to share with you what I've learned. We're going to kind of learn some of this process together, and I'll be honest, if I make a mistake, I'll tell you exactly what I did wrong.
Or I'll be honest if he makes a mistake.
What I didn't do is I didn't miss. One shot, clean kill.
That's what matters.
The buck didn't suffer. It literally was dead on arrival, and it's a pleasure as a hunter to see a clean kill where you're not causing needless suffering. God's given us a bunch of animals out in the woods for us to go find, like going shopping.
Yeah.
Where the food runs away. Anyway,
yeah, it's
I know it's kind of
shopping.
yeah.
It's hunting in the wilderness where the food's running away.
Yes. But it's one of those things where you kind of go, I know some people out there are not going to appreciate hunting, the concept of killing animals, but quite frankly, most of you are homesteaders. You understand the gardening, you understand meat doesn't just show up in a store, it has to be an animal at some point. So these deer, they're cud chewers. It's no different than a goat or a cow. Yeah, exactly, just like goats.
Yep.
So deer are essentially goats of the mountains.
With giant horns and they're 200 pounds.
They're tree goats.
Tree goats. No. Anyway, let's take a look at what we're going to do for you today and show you.
Yay! Let's go take a look at this thing.
Before we get to actually processing this deer, which is what you have to do after you kill a buck, right? They don't just get wrapped up in plastic and put in your freezer ready to go. You have to go through the whole cleaning process and skinning process, which is a little bit kind of dirty work. It's a lot harder than just buying it and scanning it at the register. But I want to tell you the story that happened to me in the process of this hunt. We'd been up there for several days. Some of the guys have gone home, and some of the guys have left, but it's the end of our second to last day, and my dad and I decided we're going to hunt down from the top of the hill. The quick version is I'm walking through the woods, very dry. We haven't seen any deer really on this hunt or this trip so far, and crackling under my feet are all the branches, and I look up, and there is a deer, a doe, up on the hill above me. And she doesn't see me yet, but she's kind of looking, carefully watching, and I confirmed it's a doe, there's no horn, so I pull out my cell phone and I start filming. And I actually have the video, and I think we're gonna throw it in here real quick. Then, in the background, I see another deer. She starts stomping her feet, and I'm like, well, it looks like a doe. I don't see that it has horns on its head. But I'm carefully looking, and then, oh my gosh, there are horns. So I put my camera away, pull up my gun, and as soon as I see a fork, and a fork means there are two horns that kind of cross. Now, in California, at least the area I hunt, you have to have a male deer, a buck, and the buck has to have at least a fork. The fork legally has to be big enough that a ring can hang on it. Anyway, so I see this buck, pow, I shoot it, and as I said earlier, you really want a clean kill. So this buck gets shot through the heart, does the stumble walk down the hill, and dies like 15 feet from me right as it's starting to get dusk, almost dark. And I was so excited. You have to wait so they don't run off and you don't prolong their death. You want to be humane about it as much as possible, but you can't ask for anything better than that. Just where they fall down and they're easily retrievable. You're not searching for hours for them. You get the buck back, you skin him out, and then what do you do? So you can answer this question from wild game. You can ask the same question about an animal you've grown at home, a pig or a sheep or a goat. But processing an animal, and I'll kind of show you what it looks like at this point. I have it laid out here on my counter. This animal is made of muscles, and the muscles are where where the meat's at. It's also got bones, so a lot of what my processing is going to do is separate that bone and the fat, because on deer you do not want the fat, and you end up grinding it up or saving the roasts. Anyway, I'm going to show you today how to make deer sausage. I think that'd be fun. It's a good one. It's easy. Something pretty much anyone with a grinder can do. And you can do this with any kind of meat. Of course, I have this meat available right now, so we'll do that together. What was the question?
Why do you not want deer fat?
You don't want deer fat. Actually, that's a good question, and you should know this. Deer fat doesn't taste good. It's really clumpy like this. If you cook it into meats or stews using the meat, it'll stick to the roof of your mouth. It's not got a great taste. Now, what we are going to talk about is grinding it with pork fat or bacon. A lot of times that's a great way to take a meat like a wild lean meat, and it makes it taste better. You like bacon. I know Caleb likes bacon. Mommy likes bacon. You
Daddy
like
likes
bacon. No, unless you're a vegetarian,
You like bacon.
chances are you like bacon. But the reason we like it is because it's got good fat in it, and when you cook it, it transfers that fat taste into the meat. We're going to do the same thing with this, where we get some of the other flavors from the pork fat and we grind it with this along with the seasonings, and that's what's going to make the venison, which is what we call deer meat, venison. We're going to make it really tasty and delicious. So, all right, guys, so I just took my shower. I got out of the shower, got this all laid out here. This is what a deer looks like after it's been skinned and gutted and it's ready to be processed at home, right? So you guys have been poking this here and there and saying, what's this, what's that? So I figured if they're asking this, you might want to know too, because it's easy to look at a stack of different cuts in the store and say, oh, I like fillets, I like, roasts, I like steaks, I like ribs. That comes from somewhere inside these animals. So I thought I'd share with you. You can always find a chart like this online that quarters the deer and says what, or cows, sheep, whatever your goats, right? But this is going to be what we're going to use to kind of talk about where the different cuts are, and then you can kind of see what I do with it. You've seen the outside. I want to show you what the inside looks like.
Wow, heavy leg.
So, inside, we all know what ribs are, right? These are the ribs, and you can cut those out and just have a rack of ribs. There's not a whole lot of meat, so if I wanted to do rib meat, I might just cut these out and just have the meat around it. Could be fun. We may end up doing that. But those are your ribs. Back here, you have the leg rounds. Down in this section, the rump. This is going to be where you get a lot of roast type meat, good stuff. The shanks down here, front legs, back legs, both have the shanks. That's down in this section here. Down underneath, I'll flip this around one more time. Whee!
You're nailing up the counter though.
Yeah. Okay. So, actually, it might be easier to show here.
Both.
The top of the back, this is called the back strap, okay? And in here, this is the really good meat at the top, right along the top of the back. It's gonna be your tastiest meat. There's also some fillets down in here, and you can kind of see, you guys like filet mignon? This is the filet of deer. So that's really good meat right in there. So Up at the neck, a lot of the meat on a deer is often just ground up into hamburger, and that's fine. Some people just say, I like my deer straight up ground into hamburger. So that's what we're gonna do with a lot of this. I'll show you the grounding process. We like to make it into sausage. We like to make it into
Hamburgers.
Hamburger, yeah. We can make some spaghetti out of deer. That's always fun. So next time you see this, it'll all be cut up. I'm probably not gonna bore you with the whole process, but really, every muscle group is a different cut. So I'm gonna start by cutting this into manageable pieces, and then we'll break it down into bite-sized pieces. Yes?
And the white stuff is fat.
Yeah, that's absolutely correct. All the white stuff is fat. So one of the things I'm gonna be doing after I get into bite-sized pieces is taking off all this fat layer, like that. And of course, use a really sharp knife. Watch your fingers, watch your fingers. We'll just take off all that extra fat. Now, this has been aged for a few days, hanging in a cooler, so it's not super fresh. So that makes the meat a little harder, I'll say. Not in a bad way, but in a way that makes it very clear where the different muscle groups are. You can see that nice line right here, and you can see where the fat is congealed now. So that'll actually make it easier for me to identify what I need to cut off and what I don't. Now, I'm no butcher. So what I end up with is going to be a whole bunch of muscles that I cut apart. The bigger ones are going to be my roasts, and I'll show you those. I know it's a little brutal to talk about, but somewhere around here is the bullet hole where it went in. And I mean, that's an important thing for you to remember if you're shooting wild game. There's bullets. This one happened to go in, hit the heart, and out the ribs. Very bottom, so ended up not much damage. I was kind of shooting uphill. Made it really, really nice. So I have all 4 of the shoulders intact, so I'm thrilled about that. And that's also, if we're gonna take an animal's life, we wanna get the most out of it, try not to blow up the whole thing. Pulling the fat off. Well, I'll use a bigger knife and we'll get that going. Mommy couldn't be here tonight because she is actually teaching Bible study at our church.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And we're going.
And I just got home from hunting, so I had someone else covering for me. Pastor Aaron is taking over tonight for the men. So anyway, we are going to get this all cut up and get going. All right, so as soon as you start cutting the pieces apart, you want to put it in something. If you're not ready to process it right away, put it in something like an ice chest where you can keep it cool and out of the elements, away from flies, etc. Nothing worse than meat going bad before you've even used it, right? By the way, I apologize to my wife in advance because I'm showing off a less than perfect kitchen. Not that she strives to show off like she's perfect or anything, but I surprised her by coming home a day early, so I love you, honey. Anyway. When you get these cuts cut off, make sure you rinse them down so they're nice and fresh. Any blood, we want to make sure we get this blood off. So just dunk it in the sink. Just try to get it nice and clean, because you'll be happy later when you're ready to start cutting all that together. And throw it in your ice chest, and then of course clean out your ice chest later when you're done. So as I'm sitting here looking at the meat, I'm taking it apart bit by bit, kind of in the quarters and the hocks and all the different areas I told you about. I'm now looking at this a little closer, and why don't we come in a little bit? Amanda just got home from her study, so which went well, and she's in 1 Corinthians 7 if you want to read along.
We are in 1 Corinthians chapter 7.
Anyway, so if you look right along here, we did do some hacksawing and cutting. This is where the bullet came out. And then over here, you can see a little bit of green. This is from the guts. Obviously, bullets do a lot of damage inside the animal. And as you gut them and go through the cleaning process, if you get stomach contents on the meat, it will ruin it. So what I have to do right now is try to peel back this skin where the meat is, or where the entrails have kind of touched, and try to get rid of all that green goo. And if I can't, I have to cut it out. Since I'm trying to preserve as much as I can.
These are all connective tissue layers and...
Yeah, so I mean, there's not a whole lot of meat here. This is the rib cage, so you can kind of see. We're not talking about too much. I'm just gonna take my finger, can you see? So if I lose some of this, it's not the end of the world. We've already lost, you know, this piece because we knew that was bad. But if I have to cut out this, I'm not losing that much rib meat, and it would be better to cut it out now than grind it in with the rest of it and kind of mess with the taste. So I'm gonna be real careful as I go through here. If I can preserve it, I'm gonna preserve it. If I can't, I'm not gonna ruin the rest of it by making that mistake. And I was counseled that way by my friend Ken, who was with me and went through the cleaning process, and he was saying, don't make that mistake. So I'm kind of sharing that wisdom with you as we go, which is good. And also, I've already pulled out one backstrap, but this right here is the backstrap. It's about that long. They're really long, wonderful pieces of meat. And I'll show you this bad boy when we get it all cut out. But it runs right along the backbone.
Fancy that, being called a back strap.
Yeah, so the
and
back
it runs
strap,
along the back.
or you might know it as the loin, right? That loin muscle is what gives all the animals their strength in their back. Supports the whole body. Okay, so this is where the back strap came from, and here is the back strap. This is going to be a delicious dinner, maybe two.
Yeah.
Or, you know, with company. But yeah, this is a prime cut from this deer. All right, so I have an ice chest. It just blows my mind. That whole deer could be consolidated to this. I don't know if you can actually see down here, but I got one bowl of just straight stew meat, and this is just the pieces I carved off that weren't part of a larger cut, kind of just salvage pieces, okay? There are 2 rib cages, which I'm gonna end up having to be very careful on this one. So when I go back and do my knife work tomorrow, when I start separating the roasts and everything, I'm gonna probably end up losing everything below here just to be safe. But that's separated. Obviously the back strap was up there, still have that in there. Got my Flintstone leg. I might barbecue this for lunch. No, this thing's awesome. I asked the kids who's hungry, pop that bad boy out. 2 big little back straps. Those are lovely. A couple fillets. I've never eaten deer fillet. I'm looking forward to this. So there's 2 of those. And then I think the front legs, I have 2 neck pieces, which will just basically be stew meat. I just have to get it in there with the knife and cut it apart. The front legs are a little smaller. And those are good. Look at that. It's bunches of little muscles like that. So it's going to be, once again, stew meat or taco meat. But we're going to get this all on ice, and I'm going to try relaxing at home for the evening. And then tomorrow we'll get back to the processing. Okay, so it's the next day. I just got to show you this. It's pretty awesome. We have decided multi-purposing is a way of life around here. And recycling, apparently, because we have some old See's Candy. Great company, by the way.
I think that thing's like 10 years old.
It's got to be, yeah. But if you like chocolate, definitely go for it. No, so we got some the meat on ice overnight. But all these jars, these are goat milk jars that were frozen in our freezer till we were getting ready to use them. And I decided to use them as ice packs so that kept the meat all fresh and cool in the ice chest. Men is going to make cheese today with the milk while I do my butchering. And I just thought you'd like to see that because it's kind of funny. Random milk. And then we actually had a jar. You could see the milk on the meat. So I'm going to have to wash all that. Jar broke. It froze what exceeded the size of the jar. So that's just lovely. Good call, David. Brilliant. Anyway, clean.
Check your jars.
Check your jars. But highly recommend the process. All right, so we are going to start with our cutting up for our sausage. Got all my fat and pork to mix in with it there. But first, I just want to show you the other part. So if you want to preserve the horns of your buck, you really don't want to hang all the meat and yucky brain matter on your wall. You need it to be dried out. You need it to be cleaned. Some people like to have the fur left on it, so you just hang it up as kind of a trophy of the momentous occasion, right? So I'm going to share with you the very quick formula to preserve your own skull cap. And essentially it's half vinegar, half water. So white vinegar, and you can actually see that I'm recycling the container. We are using, where's the lid? There it is. White distilled vinegar and water, 50-50, with then, so 2 cups-ish of each, and a solid cup of salt, not iodized salt. And you just mix it in. It should be about 5 days of letting it soak in this. And then every day you need to stir that salt back up because it'll settle, just to make sure you're getting that in there to kind of pickle it. Essentially is what you're doing. You're pickling the head. Then you'll get in there and scrape everything out that you can, and then pack it with salt. I don't know that I'll be showing you that process, but eventually we'll show you the final in a future video. But just so you kind of know what we're doing with this. Now I'm going to move this to the side. Have a seat there, little buddy, and I'm going to start getting out meat. We're going to cut up into roasts, and the sausage cuts that I'm going to make small enough to put into our grinder, which we'll use our KitchenAid attachment to grind our sausage and hamburger. And I went to the store. If you live outside of California, you may have a butcher that can just give you the pork trimmings. In this area, Central California, they actually make you pay for it, which is absolutely nuts.
Just a few years ago we didn't.
Just a few years ago we did not. Yeah. So what I found today was when I started calling the butchers around town, some would not even sell it. I went to Costco. They said, no, we have to put it in our trim bin, throw it out. It's like, dude, can I just have some? No. If you have a good relationship with your butcher, talk to them. The one down the street said he'd get some for me for $1 a pound tomorrow, but I was doing the project today. So further down the street, we went to Food Max. They were able to get it for $1.89. So we got about 10 pounds of pork fat trimmings. But it was interesting. They also had on sale a pork shoulder butt. And so some of the recipes that I've been looking at just said you can mix in about 25% pork without super over influencing the taste. And because they had a really fatty pork butt roast, I was like, oh, I'll just use that too. And it'll just kind of augment the volume of the meat. So feel free to do that. We'll talk recipes in just a bit, but for now, I'm gonna cut down this meat and we'll get going on it. We literally just left you a second ago, but check this out. So as you're cutting, you're separating muscles, and that's where your roasts come from. So I just cut that little bit of fat there, and you can see as you go, these muscles right here. I don't know if you've ever separated a full roast or anything. You probably have an idea of what I'm talking about. But when you do your own butchering, you're separating out all these different muscle groups, and that's the separation right there between these two muscles. I just think it's very nifty and cool. You obviously want to have a sharp knife.
Anatomy, y'all.
Yeah.
This stuff fascinates me. It's right up my alley.
Look at this. There's more than one nerd in this house, I'll just say that. Especially when I get to working with food.
Very cool.
Yeah, it's cool stuff. So our crafting day is well underway. Amanda's got her soap all done, ready to harden up, and I'm on leg number 2 of this deer. It's a tedious process to get roasts, but check out this roast. It's a good one. Nice one, 2-pounder, and then a bunch of things I can grind up or make stew meat out of. Pretty thrilled with it. Our little waste pile is getting, get some bones, some waste. It's all good. Having fun. Cutting away. Cut.
You are awesome.
You keep telling me that. I'm gonna start believing you.
Oh, I've only been telling you that for 15 years. 16 years. God, we're getting old, David.
Meat. Make a mustache out of it. A meat stash.
Oh my gosh. I take it back. I take it all back.
I was waiting for that. Oh gosh.
You're a dork.
It's fun to have fun. We're sparing everybody like this kind of conversation for hours on end. So. Cue the music. All right, so I'm gonna I've started taking the meat off these ribs. Amanda asked me, hey, why aren't we cooking these like a rack of ribs? And really it's just because there's not much meat on them. I'll give you an example here. I cut this one out. Gotta cut some of that bad gut shot meat away. That's all the meat we're really getting off them. So since, like we talked about, how the fat's not good, by the time I cut fat away from these ribs, it's almost not even worth it for this much meat. So anyway, it'll be ground up and I'll make it into sausage, which you can see how we do. All right, well, there he is. That's what's the remains of the buck. I got this pile of bones and that bag of scraps, mostly just the inedible parts. And now on to doing something fun with the edible stuff. Yay. Okay, we are done carving meat off bones. Next up is start that sausage. So what I have here are 2 piles. This was just in a bowl, but I want to figure out just how much meat we're going to turn into sausage. So all the roasts and loins and fillets are in the fridge. Those will be wrapped up all together. This is the stuff that could either be stew meat or sausage. Right now I'm just going to find out exactly how many pounds we are gaining from this deer. We know it's about 100 pounds field dressed and hanging with the head and the fur and all that with the bones. Now we're just going to get a meat weight, and I'll let you know what that is. I guess first I have a food scale, which is kind of silly. Max weight is 5, so I'm going to be doing a little bit of math, but we'll see how many 5 pounds sections we get out of this. 20 pounds of meat that we're going to turn into sausage. Our ratio of pork fat to meat will be about 25%. I do have enough pork fat there, so really it's about 5 pounds of pork fat. So I could do that here with just 3 little packages of pork fat mixed in with this, and we'll be in good shape. I'm looking forward to this. So in a second I'm going to get you all the ingredients you'll need. We'll throw it up there on the right, left, your right, and then you'll have all the ingredients and stuff to make this yourself. Here we go. Let's get this thing moving. Look on this side. Here it comes. Just like so. So right at the beginning, this is basically just hamburger that's coming out. Just straight burger. Venison burger, obviously not beef, which is what you'd buy at the store usually. So we're gonna grind up some that will just keep straight as hamburger, okay? We'll still put a little bit of fat in there. The fat holds it together. So if you're gonna make hamburgers, it needs fat, otherwise it'll be too lean and it'll fall apart. Put a little bit of fat in now.
Fat?
Yep, this is pig fat.
The fat is more what'll gum it up than the meat.
Watch, you're gonna see the color change. Here comes the white.
Why do you want it to change?
Just because it's gonna give it a little more fatty texture. Especially in sausage, it's important because a sausage has to have that fat to hold the moisture.
Oh my gosh, it's so good.
All right, grinding's all done. We are now to the point where we can either make hamburger, which is done, which is just gonna take mixing it up, or sausage. Now, I have more fat in the freezer that I can make for the sausage bit because I want to have a heavier fat content in that than I do in the hamburger. So we're gonna make sure that we add about 25% pork trimmings or pork fat to the sausage, okay? what I've done at this point is I'm gonna just put aside the stuff that I'm gonna use for hamburger, and we're gonna work with just the sausage. We're gonna talk about the seasonings to use, and then you have the option of adding casings, which they use intestines, or you can get artificial casings, I suppose. But that's something else you can buy at the store. Most supermarkets or butcher shops will have that. What I'm gonna use is just freezer bags, and we're just gonna make little 1 pound packages. Make it real straight up, simple, and then we'll be able to share it with our family and friends that way. So anyway, we're gonna get going, get ready to start mixing. First step is just to get this fat and meat mixed together. You can use your hands for that, or whatever you'd like. Now I'm gonna take this grinder piece. It's really important to make sure that you get this equipment soaking early so it doesn't harden up, because you want it to be nice and ready to use next time. Anyway, give me a few minutes to get going on that, and we'll give you the recipe and everything. It is finally time to put these sausages together. We've gone through the whole process of taking the deer from literally a body on our counter to breaking it up, grinding it up, adding in pork fat, and now we're here. So what I'm gonna do right now is show you how to make 10 pounds of Italian venison sausage. In front of me, I have all my different ingredients, and we're gonna put this up either in the comments, or maybe Manna can like make some magic happen because she's really good about that. But this is my recipe that I have kind of taken parts of different things and put together. As you can see, I'm spreading out the meat. This is just the venison and the fat. Now we're gonna sprinkle everything right across the top. Just making crevices for the seasoning to get down inside of. Then I'll fold it all back together anyway, so no big deal. All right, so all this is laid out beautifully now. And this, kids, is the fun part, where you just get to get your hands just all over the place. Now, what I'm gonna do is I'm just gonna kind of fold these ingredients all together. The reason I'm using this pan here instead of a bowl is because I know I can spread it out as I'm applying it a little more evenly. You can do 2 pans if you wanna just get it a little more spread out. But ultimately, 10 pounds of meat is kind of hard on a mixer. You don't wanna really be using a mixer for that unless you have a really heavy duty one. So I like doing it by hand, and then I'll put it in the bowl and we'll add in that red wine vinegar. Oh my gosh, this smells so good. I love every single one of these seasonings individually. So when they all get to get together, it's a good day. Oh, should I have washed my hands before I did this?
Haha, you're hilarious.
COVID-free sausages. As we get going a little bit, you can see there's not really any hot spots of herbs anymore, which is good. You don't want to like run into a pack of crazy mouth-attacking paprika monsters in your bite.
No.
Not that that would be
Not
terrible.
that that would be terrible, but no, like I can just imagine you run into a pile of garlic and happiness is just too much to handle, and you know, everyone else would be crying because they didn't get any garlic, and you got all the garlic, and they'd be jealous, and fights would break out in the house.
I like garlic.
Well, yeah, but I do too, and if you got all the garlic, that'd make me very sad.
I'd take them out and do something else.
Oh, thank you. See, you're a thoughtful person. So that's that so far. Now, I'm gonna put it back in here to mix in the liquid, because I feel like it's gonna run off the side.
This liquid?
That liquid. Last ingredient, red wine vinegar.
And it's pink, kind of. It's not really red when you pour it
Yeah.
little by little.
Butchers are usually really masters at their craft, so they've honed recipes, they've done it, but I really enjoy the process of taking apart an animal, taking apart the muscle groups, understanding it, and it's like, yeah, they might have done a professional job of cutting it and packaging it, but I'm intimately aware of where this has been, how it's been stored, what's been done with it, how it's been seasoned, and I'm just enjoying it. And I hope that's something that you can do too. And even if it's not necessarily on a scale of a full creature from the woods, you can go to any big warehouse store and get like a pork shoulder, pork butt roast, something like that, and you can take it apart on your countertop and make roasts at it. Today, we were at the store and I was trying to debate, should I pay the 99 cents a pound for the full pork shoulder or buy pork fat for $1.89? It blew my mind that the meat itself was cheaper than the fat, right? So I ended up buying both. But what I'm gonna do with that is exactly what I did with the full deer. Take it apart, make roasts out of the shoulder. Because there's a bunch of different things in there and we can use it to feed our family at 99 cents a pound. Sometimes people just get intimidated by seeing those giant packages and shrink wrapped packages. Don't be intimidated. Get a knife, go separate it, and you're gonna make yourself a very cheap series of meals that you can store. And if you grind it and use that exact same recipe, you make yourself a pork sausage that's to die for. So do it. It'll be great. You'll enjoy it. And this sausage is done. Finally, the last step will be packaging it. That's going to be a project for tomorrow, but we'll make sure we get you a picture of the final deal. Thanks for hanging with me this far. See you in the morning. All right, sausage is served. Got all the stuff packed up. 10 pounds of venison sausage, 10 pounds of hamburger. I'm just thrilled with this. Amanda, why don't you come over here and we can close this video out. I still have the rest of the packaging to do on like the roast and stuff. But, you know, this is exciting.
I've had to smell.
Here, have a fork.
Thank you.
All right, here goes.
All right.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
You have a gift, sir.
Do this. Go find one of these animals in the woods. Bring it home and do this. Thanks for hanging out while we did this project, and I hope maybe you learned something. Maybe you learned how not to do things. One thing we did learn, and I think we've learned this in the past and failed to put it into action today. When you're gonna package something like, I don't know, venison sausage or hamburger, note the difference in how dark that is. These, actually I did the hamburger first, and see how light it is on there? Once you have cold sausage in the plastic.
Oh, you mean the labels?
The labels.
Yeah.
Yeah, once you have the cold meat in there, it's hard to write on those, so yeah, there's a learned lesson. We wrote all those in advance and it just stands out further. The pens just don't like to read on cold plastic, so. Anywho, this is good stuff. I have no regrets.
No regrets.
I mean, I would have made it a little more spicy, but that garlic.
No, I think it's on there. Right.
Oh, by the way, I love you.
Love you.
I have my shirt on. This is your urban hunter with a goat herd in the backyard.
Sure.
And the nerd.
Then you get to say the words.
Well, you say the words.
But you said the... Okay. How about we do them together?
Okay, let's do it together.
Okay, you can grow where you're planted.
Well, here it is. All done. 10 pounds of sausage, 10 pounds of venison hamburger, and then a bunch of roasts, 6 pounds of stew meat, all the loins and fillets. A lot of work, but definitely worth it.